Okay, my friends, if you've been following me, you know that when I do research, I do it deep. I've been hearing about this acetaminophen, Tylenol being a source of a cause of autism, and that's what they're talking about in the Trump administration. Now, and they're supposedly going to make some announcement about it today. I'm going to show you the evidence about Tylenol and about enzymes. Okay, so is there a link between autism and Tylenol? And there's different yes and no and maybe, and there is nothing solid, and nobody even knows how Tylenol works. They don't know how it works. They know what it does. It reduces inflammation and pain. They don't know how it works, but now they're starting to associate it to a possible enzyme. I go with the enzymes because there's not a single thing that happens in your body, zero, in the biology of your body, zero happens that does not have an enzyme. And if that enzyme isn't there, the chemistry will not happen. The only way the enzyme is there if you have the bacteria. If the bacteria in your gut is gone for this specific purpose, that chemistry won't happen. Let's just start off with the fact nobody knows how Tylenol works. It says it has two actions in the body: reducing fever, providing relief for mild to moderate pain. Though it has been studied for almost 150 years, how it works remains a mystery. However, this is the key right here. It says the most promising yet still speculative explanation for how this works is that it works with enzymes. Blocking this particular COX enzyme at the cause of pain is the mechanism by which non-steroidal anti-drugs work, NSAIDs. However, this one is not strong enough to do this. It says the effect of Tylenol at the pain site is too weak to be responsible to diminish this effect. However, this Tylenol might block the enzyme production in the brain, thus blocking the further transmission of the pain nerve impulses. Enzymes and the nerves intimately tied together. Enzymes are intimately tied with every single thing that happens in your life. You would die almost instantly without the enzymes. Now that was tough, and nobody understands how Tylenol works, but they're suspecting it is tied in with the reduction of this particular enzyme, which means to silence a bacteria in my world. Okay, what I am proposing is simple, quick, it can be figured out within a couple of weeks. Bacteria act as biological factories, produce a wide range of enzymes, literally tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands possibly, which are complex proteins, speed up chemical reactions unbelievably fast. Different bacteria are used, and now they're talking about industry, breaking down things, wastes and all this, but in nature, in your body, is where the bacteria really comes to its importance. And it grows there, it lives there, that's its habitat. And if it's not there, you will not create the enzyme. You don't have the enzyme, you don't have the chemistry. You don't have the chemistry, whatever was supposed to happen doesn't happen. Okay, this is ultra simple. Bacteria are the factories. They are the little factories that create these ribosomes. That's their job in life. And they squirt out these ribosomes, and the ribosomes float throughout the body, and they collect in the cells. There can be 1 million of these ribosomes in a single human cell, and they're everywhere in the body. Inside that little ball is this right here. That's the ball. It gets triggered. It opens up, and you get an exotic enzyme, which can also be a protein. Proteins are building blocks. Enzymes are breakers. They break things. Proteins build things, muscle, bone, all that stuff. Now, so you're squirting out these ribosomes all day long, the bacteria. They're the factory. They float through the body. Here's what happens. The ribosome comes out from the bacteria. It is a program. It's a literal program that programs messenger RNA that breaks in using uracil to break into the DNA and drops its new program when you need a new program to become immune to something. That's why they're talking about all these mRNA vaccines and so forth. They are these programs. Now you have to have the program right. They're right on both sides. You can do this, but if you do it wrong, you got issues. And you can get them wrong easily. You see what that code is right there? That's one of the most exotic codes you can ever imagine. It ends up turning into something like this in a physical shape. A literal physical structure like that pops out of that ribosome when it's triggered. And every one of these magnetic signatures has to be in the right place. It's like taking a bunch of magnets. Basically, that's what it is. But there's 20 amino acids in every one of these little codes. It's just a stunning capability. And it comes out and it does whatever it's programmed to do. It might search for a certain exact species of some kind of attacking virus or whatever, and it attaches to it and kills it. And an enzyme doesn't get used up. If there's 5,000 of these guys coming and there's one of these, it goes and kills all 5,000. When it's all done, it gets used up in the body and gets reabsorbed. So these things, and they are directed, literally directed, and I can show all of this stuff. I'm not talking out just hoping I'm true. I can show these things actually occurring. And they have seen them actually occurring now with the new equipment that shows these enzymes shooting out in a form of ribosomes into the fluid-filled highway, which was just discovered in 2018. Meet your newfound organ. This highway is fluid. What happens is they become produced down in this layer, which has all the immune activity going on in here. They have the bacteria and they're creating immune cells and so forth. And then they squirt them into the fluid-filled highway, and they travel around to where they're needed. And they, for some reason, and I don't know how they know it, but they know where to go. They know exactly where to go, where they're needed. And it's in this layer right here. And they never knew this layer existed because when they did autopsies, the fluid was missing. I could see it in my fossils that I was working with. So I started looking at this in 2015. I wrote a paper about it. And they realize this layer's here, but they don't realize what it does. That layer is the highway for 911 calls. Hey, we got a problem over there. The guy cut his finger. All the stuff goes shooting over to that finger and attacks whatever's trying to attack him, because now you got a hole in your body. Everything you have has a membrane on it. You get through that membrane, you're in trouble. That's the problem with every single disease there is. Cancer is an invasion through a membrane. You get through that membrane and it starts living in your good tissue and it grows a tumor there. That's what cancer is. And there's a ton of different cancers because there's a ton of different membranes. We have to understand where that chemistry is and what the chemistry is. And here's how simple this could be. And this could be done within a couple of weeks. We need to test for bacteria. All you can do is for fecal swab. Do a fecal swab and you see what's in that bacteria in your digestive system, because that's where all this stuff happens. You don't digest right, you get bloating, you get constipation, you get diarrhea, you get vomiting, acid reflux. All those things are products of not digesting your food correctly. And it starts right at the tip of your tongue with saliva and everything, and all the things they thought didn't have any effect on your body, like your appendix. Your appendix is a backup of bacteria. It's the backup system in case everything else fails in your body. At least you've got that pocket, and it can shoot some more juice back into you. Your tonsils, same thing. Your tonsils do something. I'm not sure what, but every one of your passageways, everything that goes through you, is worked on by a bacteria, an enzyme, and so forth. What we need to know is what is the bacteria in a normal, healthy person. And then when we see different bacteria levels high and low, that means the enzymes will be high and low because the bacteria create the enzymes. You don't have the bacteria, you're not going to get the enzyme. Enzyme's not there, you're not going to get that, you're going to be unhealthy. This is a cheap thing to do. It's quick. It's real hard evidence. This is not something that can be dismissed. If everybody that's sick has autism, has something way up here, and everybody else has it down here, they don't have autism, well, this is where we want to look. At least it gives us a place to focus. It's simple. All we need is a database of the bacteria, which will be the enzymes. And there are some databases already. They're getting into it, but not the way they should. Now, 100%, now I'm not kidding, 100% of the biology in you that happens fast enough for life happens only because of an enzyme. And an enzyme is here only because of a bacteria. This is where we need to start to look. And not only for autism, for every disease. And the problem is the bacteria that's in our gut is under heavy assault. In my mind, I would think a lot of it has to do with the herbicides, the pesticides that they're spraying on the plants just before we eat them. Because that, in us, it's nothing more than plant life. Bacteria is living in us. There's more of that in us than there is us in us. Bacteria. There's more bacteria in you than there is you in you. And the same thing when you poop. Half of that poop is actually bacteria. It's not poop. It's the bacteria that was working on that poop. This is where we got to work, right here, the enzymes and the bacteria. If we can figure this out, you can ferment bacteria and create the enzymes all you want. But you got to know which ones you're dealing with. And right now we don't know that. We need this database. All right, I think I showed you this, but bacteria act as biological factories. They're the factories, they live in us. So you don't have to do anything to them other than make sure you keep them alive, and they have what they call prebiotic, which means they got something they can eat, because they don't eat necessarily the same things we do. They need some little extra chemicals and so forth, which you normally would get from a good diet. But the good diet is only good if it can get broken down into its components, and the only way it can get broken down into its components is from bacterial enzymes, because they work fast enough to do. Otherwise, you just wouldn't. You would die just like that. They do millions of years of chemistry within 1 second, and they just go, and the only thing that limits how fast they can work is how quickly they can get to the substrate to do the click chemistry, breaking things down, killing them. Unbelievably elegant little molecules. Just so you get a little more medical lingo in here, bacteria produce a wide range of enzymes, all of them in your body. That's basically the only thing that creates them. You know, you can eat yogurt and different fermented foods, yes, and their fermented products will give off enzymes, yes, and they'll be good for your digestion, yes. But if you don't have good digestion, you have bloating, you have constipation, you have diarrhea, all that stuff is terrible because you're not digesting. Now, these enzymes, these bacteria should live inside of you. They should have a niche they live in. But because of the lifestyle that we have and the foods that we're eating and the herbicides and all of the different invading things, even radiation, x-rays, a CAT scan gives you a whole year's worth of radiation in one sitting, a whole year's worth, 1 millisievert in one sitting, and that's only supposed to have that in a whole year. And that radiation can kill bacteria. These are things that nobody's taken into account. But the bacterial enzymes, they're so complex. This is break down the molecules into smaller components. They break down proteins, fats, carbohydrates. They catalyze, which means speed up oxidation reactions, catalases, which is to get rid of the OH in your body, the hydrogen peroxide, and oxidizing lignins, reductase enzymes, nitrates, converting all this stuff, specific enzymes. every enzyme is specific, so it's not just one is specific, such as restriction endonucleases, cutting DNA at specific sites. And this is really exotic stuff, what these bacteria are capable of creating, which is these enzymes. Digestion, hydrolytic enzymes help a bacteria break down food sources and obtain nutrients. If you didn't have the enzymes, they won't break down. It's never going to happen. You'll just fall over dead. They remove waste. They break down the waste and they cell wall synthesis, antibiotic resistance, industrial applications. They're using it for, enzymes do everything, so they use it for a lot of stuff. Enzymes in everyday life. They use in laundry detergent, brewing. I mean, these are the things to create products. And if you don't have the enzymes, you will not have the product. And they happen inside your body. The enzyme's not there, no product. All right, this says it all right here. Enzymes can speed up reactions by millions, even billions of times. They can create in less than 1 second what it would take 1,000,000 years to do without the enzyme. It's just no way you could live without the enzyme. Now, this is how the active site and substrate binding. Very simple, don't freak out, very simple. They're specific. Each enzyme has a unique activation site binding to a specific substrate molecule. In other words, it's got so many little signatures here that that molecule below has to hit every one of them just right, and it does its job. Now, orientation, they make the enzymes orientate things that just instantaneously break down. The environment, the active site can create a local chemical environment favorable for the reaction to occur. Bond bending, they can bend the bonds. Now listen to this, this is the important part. Catalytic role. Catalytic means fast. They're not consumed. The enzymes don't get consumed. Enzymes are not permanently altered or consumed during the reaction. So they do one guy and they let go and they go to the next one. Reusability. After the reaction is complete, the enzyme releases the newly formed product. So it's got a hold of something and it hit it and that other product went like that. And it's supposed to be like this. Well, now it's like that. It doesn't work anymore. So let's go of it because it's just trash now at that point. And it goes on to bind with another molecule over and over and over. Now, here's the real importance. The importance for life, physiological rates without enzymes. Now listen to this as careful as you can listen. Without enzymes, that means you don't have the bacteria, you won't have the enzyme. And without the enzyme, most metabolic, which means breaking down things in your body, reactions in the body would not occur. They'd be too slow to sustain life. They'd occur too slowly to sustain life. You just can't, the reaction wouldn't happen quick enough. You can't wait a year for your carrot to break down to turn into some kind of carbohydrate or whatever. Essential processes. Enzymes are crucial for the process like digestion, otherwise you're going to have all kind of problems, diarrhea, constipation, vomiting, all that. Nerve impulses, nerve impulse transmission, very, 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 very critical. Enzymes. What is autism? What's Parkinson's? What's Alzheimer's? They're all related to nerve impulse transmissions. And also energy generation, which is from the mitochondria. You have to generate energy, and the only way you can generate energy is by using enzymes to break things down quick enough to create the energy. Okay, this is autism and gut health issues. This is Marguerite O'Reilly. I've been working with her for a number of years, at least 5, 6 years or so. And there's her son, John Jr., who had the worst autism you can have. And they were going to institutionalize him, put him in a locked ward, they call it. And we worked back and forth. And the first thing I asked her was, how's his digestion? She says, oh, all the kids with autism have terrible to have to wear diapers, and they're always the diarrhea and this, all kinds of stuff. I said, that's the problem. She says, no. Autism gives them that. I said, no, it's the other way around. If they don't digest correctly, they're not going to have the correct enzymes because they don't have the right bacteria. Well, ends up, we did work with him, and he started talking, and has a very reduced symptoms now, very reduced. Before he was stimming, humming, never said a word in his life, biting, kicking, doing all kinds of things. Wouldn't eat this, wouldn't eat that. Now he's going to school. He's doing pretty well, and she says it's all about reducing the symptoms. And what we really need to do is replace the gut bacteria, do a microbiome replacement. So that's what we've been working on. And we have a whole group, and she's working with the government over there, trying to get funding and so forth. But we have a triple PhD, a bacterial engineer that we've been working with. He understands these things very, very well. Marguerite actually took a course at Harvard for the microbiome, specifically ribosomes in that area. I, at the same time, while I was working with her, took a course at Johns Hopkins for genomics, which they related everything to, they got a genetic problem. Well, no, that's not necessarily true. The gene, which is the sequence of the program, only turns on if it becomes unmethylated. All right, there's different chemistry that turns them on and off, and these are enzymes that turn them on and off. If you don't have the right bacteria to create the right enzyme, you just can't turn it on, you can't turn it off, whatever it is. And so she's been helping people. She's got like 500 people she's been working with over there, over in Northern Ireland and in the European Union there, and they're starting to become they understand she's having success. Now, this is an observational study. I'm not giving any saying you should do this, you shouldn't do that, whatever. But it's all about replacing his gut bacteria, which helped him come along. But he wouldn't even eat the pills. He wouldn't take the pills and anything that she was trying to give him. She ended up having to put the powder into a ice cream for him every day, and after a couple of weeks he started coming around. It doesn't take long. If you look up how long does it take for an enzyme to work, well, hold on. All right, here's one right here. UNC School of Medicine, Biochemistry and Biophysics. Without enzymes, biological reaction essential to life takes 2.3 billion years. And less than 1 second with the enzyme. It's stunning how fast enzymes work. Now, if you're missing your enzymes and they're supplemented to you, it can take literally only a few days for them to actually go into effect. Sometimes it's within minutes. It depends on what the enzyme is and how complicated its process is, how many other things it has to affect. Because some of these enzymes do such exotic chemistry, it's just beyond the belief of the human mind that a bacteria could create this kind of it's literally a program. So I think I'm going to leave it at that. What we need to do, and I would love to talk to Kennedy or Trump or any of them, they want to get rid of autism. Let's start with a database of the bacteria. Let's take a look. This is not a big thing to do. This is cheap. It's quick. It's solid, real evidence. No guesses here. If everybody that has a certain condition has a way up here on some certain bacteria and normal is way down here, well, we want to look at that. Right now, nobody's looking at this. They're guessing here, guessing there. We shouldn't do this. You should do this. Inoculation causes that, and this causes that. And we should let nature do its job. But right now, we have interfered with nature so badly, especially with these genetically modified foods. They can spray poisons right on the food. We eat the food, the poisons are on there. Those poisons go in our body and they kill our bacteria. The same thing with antibiotics. They just wipe out broad spectrum slaughter the bacteria that's in your body. Now, hopefully your body can respond by repopulating, but that's not going to be the case in a lot of places because it's under assault from so many different things: the food, the water, the air, all of that stuff. So if you can't fight back, you just slowly deteriorate, and that's what it is with the lack of enzymes. I'm going to leave it at that. And again, I'm not saying take this or don't take that or whatever, but I am saying one thing. They should allow more research on these fecal matter transplants. That's what I would say. That's my last word on this. You see this? Beneficial bacteria. If you can get somebody that's totally 100% healthy, and they can get databases of what health is, and then get those bacteria, and then ferment them. You don't have to get them from somebody's poop. You got to figure out what they are, and then yes, you do have to get them from somebody's poop, and from a whole batch of different people. But these are harmful bacteria. They know these cause sickness. They know these. If they're not there, you're going to be sick. And then there's thousands, and literally thousands. I think they said something like 75,000 species now of bacterial enzymes that they know of. I mean, they don't have any clue really what's in there yet because they haven't really studied it. But using AI and using spectroscopy. Spectroscopy means you take a picture of it. You see these different colors? They're not different colors for no reason. They're different colors because they're different colors. And if you took the right picture of that with the right CMOS and looked at all of the different variations of colors and then ran it through AI to say how much of this do we have versus that versus this, and you have all these different colors, you pick them up instantly just like that. And it would tell you an analysis of your poop. To some degree. I mean, this has got to be worked on, but we got to start somewhere. The first thing they should do to you when you go to a doctor is say, give me a fecal analysis. We'll take a look at that. They ask you for a urinalysis. This is where your health comes from, what you absorb or don't absorb. Hippocrates said all disease starts in the gut. If you don't absorb the stuff right, you're done. And I showed you a lot of this stuff relates to nerve impulses and the neuromuscular abilities. All right, I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you.